72 hours later, the galaxy learned exactly what humans meant by comprehensive response. It began with what appeared to be routine news broadcasts across the galactic communication network. Standard diplomatic announcements, trade reports, and shipping updates that billions of beings absorbed as part of their daily information diet. Except every single broadcast contained a hidden message. On Morvani Prime, citizens watched their morning news and suddenly found themselves staring at detailed financial records showing how their government had stolen human cargo. The evidence was presented in perfect Morvani legal format, complete with authenticated signatures and timestamps. In the aquatic domains, underwater cities received what appeared to be routine system updates to their information networks. Instead, they got comprehensive documentation proving their officials had fraudulently seized human territory using fabricated environmental claims. Across Cathari space, routine communications were replaced with recordings of their own intelligence operatives bragging about how they had infiltrated human systems and manipulated their victims. But these weren't random data dumps. The humans had spent 72 hours crafting each revelation for maximum impact, tailoring the evidence to each species' psychology and legal system. Every piece of data was presented in a way that would provoke the strongest possible reaction from that particular civilization. For the bureaucratic Morvani, the evidence showed violations of their sacred commercial law codes. For the honor-obsessed aquatic domains, it proved their leaders had behaved in ways their culture considered deeply shameful. For the information-trading Cathari, it revealed that their entire intelligence network had been compromised for years. Ambassador Vexdor watched in growing horror as her civilization's most carefully guarded secrets flooded the galactic networks. Financial records, military intelligence, diplomatic communications, personal scandals, everything the Cathari had spent centuries accumulating was being systematically released. But the humans weren't finished. They had prepared something far more devastating than simple exposure. The second wave of the human response became apparent when the Morvani Empire's banking system collapsed. Every account that had received funds from stolen human cargo was frozen simultaneously. But the freeze orders weren't coming from human authorities. They were coming from the Morvani government itself. The humans had done something unprecedented in galactic history. They had completely infiltrated an alien government and turned it against itself. Emperor Vorth Prime of the Morvani Empire stood before his emergency council, reading reports that made no sense. "Our own Treasury Department has frozen our own accounts," he said incredulously. "Our own audit bureau is filing criminal charges against our own customs officials. Our own military intelligence is investigating our own diplomatic corps for fraud." "How is this possible?" demanded General Crixvol. "The humans have been inside our systems for years," the Emperor replied grimly. "Every communication, every transaction, every order we've issued has been monitored and cataloged. They know our procedures better than we do." The same scene was playing out across the galaxy. The aquatic domains found their own environmental protection agencies filing corruption charges against their territorial expansion teams. The Crystalline Confederacy watched their internal security forces arresting their own officials for fraud. The humans had turned each government into a weapon against itself. But even this wasn't the end of humanity's response. Captain Sarah Matthews, who 3 days earlier had been forced to pretend her ship was impounded, now stood on the bridge of the human dreadnought Righteous Fury as it led a fleet of 60 vessels toward Cathari space. "Fleet Command, this is Matthews," she reported calmly. "Operation accountability proceeding on schedule. Estimated arrival at target objectives in 6 hours." The human fleet wasn't heading for military targets. They weren't interested in conquering territory or destroying infrastructure. They had something much more precise in mind. Every Cathari who had participated in Operation Truthbender was about to receive a personal visit. Technician Zixvol was working frantically to restore the Whispered Truth's communication systems when proximity alarms began sounding. He looked at the tactical display and felt his insectoid heart stop beating. The human fleet had somehow appeared in the middle of Cathari space without being detected by any of their early warning systems. They were moving in perfect formation toward specific targets with an efficiency that suggested they knew exactly where they were going, which they did. The humans had been tracking every alien involved in the conspiracy for months. "This is Admiral Chen of the Human Defense Force," came a transmission on all Cathari frequencies. "We are here to collect compensation for theft of human property and to ensure this situation does not occur again." Admiral Chen was Ambassador Sarah Chen's sister, and she had spent the last 72 hours studying every detail of Operation Truthbender. She knew exactly which Cathari had issued which orders, which ships had carried out which thefts, and which officials had signed which fraudulent documents. "Attention, Cathari vessel, Whispered Truth," Admiral Chen continued. "You will surrender Ambassador Vexdor for transport to human space, where she will face trial for conspiracy to commit fraud. You have 10 minutes to comply." On the bridge of the Whispered Truth, Vexdor stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The human fleet was positioned with mathematical precision, blocking every escape route while staying just outside the range of Cathari defensive weapons. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "the humans are broadcasting similar demands to 47 other Cathari vessels. They want every individual who participated in Operation Truthbender." Vexdor realized with growing dread that the humans weren't just seeking revenge. They were pursuing justice with methodical precision, targeting exactly the beings responsible while leaving everyone else alone. "This is Admiral Koth of the 3rd Cathari Defense Fleet," came a transmission from a nearby military squadron. "Human vessels, you are in violation of Cathari territorial space. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." Admiral Chen's response was swift and devastating. "Admiral Koth, checking our records. Yes, you weren't involved in Operation Truthbender. Please maintain your position and avoid interference. This matter doesn't concern you." Then, without warning, every Cathari military vessel in the sector lost power simultaneously. "However," Chen continued calmly, "your weapons systems have been temporarily disabled to prevent misunderstandings. They will be restored once our business here is concluded." Admiral Koth stared at his dead control panels in shock. The humans had somehow infiltrated even their military networks, but instead of destroying the fleet, they had simply neutralized it with surgical precision. It was a demonstration of capability that sent a clear message. The humans could have destroyed them all, but were choosing not to because they weren't the targets. Across the galaxy, similar scenes were unfolding as human fleets appeared at every location where Operation Truthbender participants were hiding. Each fleet was perfectly sized for its mission. Not overwhelming force designed to conquer, but precise instruments designed to collect specific individuals. The humans weren't interested in territorial expansion or military domination. They wanted the beings responsible for the deception, and they were going to get them. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, emergency sessions had been called by dozens of species as reports flooded in about the human response. But Ambassador Yarrick Val of the ancient hegemony simply sat in her observation chair, watching the proceedings with the calm expression of someone who had seen this exact scenario before. "Honored hegemony," pleaded Ambassador Zethka, "surely you can communicate with the humans. Help us understand their demands." "Their demands are simple," Yarrick Val replied quietly. "They want justice for the deception, compensation for their losses, and guarantees it will never happen again. The same things they've always wanted when tricked." "But their response is completely disproportionate," protested the Crystalline Confederacy's representative. "They've paralyzed half the galaxy over a simple commercial dispute." Yarrick Val's ancient eyes turned toward the young delegate. Simple commercial dispute? Young crystal singer, you still don't understand what you're dealing with. This was never about the money or the cargo. She activated a holographic display showing the current human operations. Look at what they're actually doing. They're not randomly attacking alien worlds. They're not seizing territory or resources. They're systematically collecting every being who participated in the conspiracy and exposing every detail of the operation to galactic scrutiny. The display showed human fleets moving with mechanical precision, collecting specific individuals while avoiding any unnecessary conflict. It showed alien governments receiving detailed evidence of their officials' crimes, presented in formats designed for each species' legal systems. It showed the entire conspiracy being dismantled piece by piece. This isn't revenge, Yarrick Val explained. This is humans doing what they do when they've been deceived, ensuring it never happens again by making the consequences so severe that no one will ever risk attempting it. As if summoned by her words, Ambassador Sarah Chen appeared in the council chamber. She walked calmly to the central platform, seemingly oblivious to the fearful stares of delegates whose governments were currently being torn apart by human intelligence operations. Honored delegates, Chen began pleasantly, I've come to provide an update on current human activities in response to Operation Truthbender. She activated her own display, showing real-time data on the human response. As of this moment, we have collected 437 individuals directly involved in the conspiracy. We have recovered 94% of stolen human property. We have provided complete evidence packages to 47 different alien legal systems. The chamber was silent, except for the soft humming of translation systems. Our operations will conclude within 72 additional hours, Chen continued. All collected individuals will receive fair trials under human law with full diplomatic representation. All stolen property will be returned to its rightful owners. All compromised alien systems will be restored to their original configurations. Ambassador Zeth Ka found his voice. And then? What are human intentions regarding future relations with the galactic community? Chen smiled that same pleasant smile that had terrified the chamber weeks earlier. Exactly what they were before Operation Truthbender began. Humans are interested in peaceful trade, scientific cooperation, and diplomatic relations with all species. She paused, letting that sink in. However, we have updated our security protocols to ensure this situation cannot occur again. Every alien information system that touches human networks now includes monitoring subroutines that will detect any attempt at deception or manipulation. Every alien government that conducts business with humans now has dedicated liaison officers who are actually human intelligence operatives. The implications were staggering. The humans hadn't just defeated the conspiracy. They had positioned themselves to detect and counter any future attempts at deception before they could begin. Furthermore, Chen continued, detailed records of Operation Truthbender have been distributed to every civilized species in the galaxy. These records include complete psychological profiles of the participating individuals, analysis of their manipulation techniques, and documentation of the consequences of attempting to deceive humans. She looked around the chamber, meeting each delegate's gaze. We want to ensure that every species understands exactly what happens when someone tries to trick us. Not because we enjoy inflicting consequences, but because we prefer to avoid the necessity. Ambassador Vexdor, who had been returned to the council for diplomatic reasons before facing trial, spoke for the first time since her capture. You've destroyed entire civilizations over a simple trade dispute. Chen turned toward her with genuine puzzlement. Destroyed? Ambassador, we've exposed criminal conspiracies within your governments and provided your legal systems with evidence to prosecute the criminals. We've returned stolen property to its rightful owners and restored compromised systems to their original states. How is that destruction? Our governments are in chaos. Our intelligence networks are compromised. Our diplomatic relations are in ruins. Yes, Chen agreed calmly. That's what happens when you base your government operations on criminal conspiracies, compromise foreign intelligence networks, and build diplomatic relations on deception. We didn't cause that chaos, we simply revealed it. The human ambassador's expression grew serious. This is why Ancient Protocol 7 exists, Ambassador Vexdor. Not because humans are vengeful or destructive, but because we refuse to participate in systems based on lies. When you try to trick us, you force us to demonstrate exactly how thoroughly we understand your operations. She began walking toward the exit. The consequences you're experiencing aren't punishment for trying to deceive us. They're simply the natural result of having your deceptions exposed to your own people. Before leaving, Chen turned back one final time. Ancient Protocol 7 will remain in effect indefinitely. Any species that wishes to work with humans is welcome to do so honestly and openly. Any species that believes they can manipulate or deceive us is welcome to try, with the understanding that the galaxy now knows exactly what the consequences will be. The door closed behind her, leaving the chamber in absolute silence. 3 months later, the Galactic Council unanimously passed Resolution 847 Reverse, formally strengthening Ancient Protocol 7 and extending its protections to any species that requested them. The resolution included detailed documentation of Operation Truthbender and its consequences as a permanent part of galactic law. Ambassador Yarrick Val, filing her final report on the incident for the Hegemony Archives, concluded with a simple observation. The young races have learned what the ancient ones already knew. Humans can be negotiated with, traded with, befriended, and even occasionally disagreed with. But they cannot be deceived. The galaxy is more peaceful for remembering this truth. In human space, life returned to normal. Ships resumed their regular routes. Mining operations continued their work, and research stations pursued their investigations. The Kepler transit routes reopened to all species at standard rates, with the only change being updated security protocols. But throughout the galaxy, the lesson was clear. There were 47 civilizations capable of faster-than-light travel, hundreds of species with advanced technology, and thousands of worlds with their own unique cultures and customs. And there was one ironclad rule that applied to all of them. Never trick humans, because humans didn't get angry when they were deceived. They got thorough.